With me today, I've got my good buddy, Jose Juego from Wayward Co. Just by way of very brief introduction to Jose, this gentleman was the brainchild behind my rebrand, making me look good, which is pretty difficult task, if I'm honest. So what we thought we'd come on today and talk about is branding, because let me get rid of that Facebook screen, first of all, because it's going to annoy me because it's delayed. Branding 101, because I think this is probably one of the things that holds a lot of people back, is that ability to get their message out there to the market. It's something that I really struggled with, even though our business was doing really well at the corporate side of things. I felt like it wasn't really attached to who I was as a person, as a brand. So that's why I had a chat to Jose and his team, and they've done an awesome job, I feel, on pulling together who I am into a message that is now online. And so we want to share some stuff with you today. So Jose, thanks for joining me, mate. It's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I would like to add that you were a delight to work with. And you said it was so hard. I'm like, oh, it's actually pretty good.
Oh, that's good. I'll remember next time to be a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Now, so I suppose let's just to kick it off, just give people context of branding in the sense that, and the distinction between branding and marketing. I think some people say, yeah, I'm going out there to do branding, but what they're really doing is pitching.
Yeah. So one of the things that the way we like to describe it is that branding or building a brand is a process and not an event. A lot of people say, I've got my brand sorted, because what they mean by that is their logo and their colors and their visual identity. But what we're saying is that building a brand is a process. The same way it would be building your business. Building the brand is like the reputation of your business at every interaction point that you're going to have, whether it's on email, on social, on your website. Everything is your brand. And if that reflects who you are, well, then your brand's going to be more powerful than if you're just copying what you think everyone else is doing, and that's what you should be doing. That's why we talked about just bringing it back to who you are. And we have developed a bit of a framework as to how we do that, and I'm sure we're going to dive a little bit deep into that process in a bit. Sure. But yes, I just wanted to establish the premise of the way we see branding is it's a process that has a lot of stages, and you can iterate along the process, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So just for context, if someone's watching this and they got a pen and paper, which I hope you have, by the way, if you're watching this, we are live on Facebook right now as well, or you may be catching this on a recording. So hello to the Facebook world if you're watching. Leave a question if you've got one, and we'll pick up on them before we finish up with Jose today. Yeah, so cool. If someone's got a pen and paper and they're thinking, you know what, my brand is a bit average, I don't really feel like it resonates with myself or with anyone in the audience, what would be like where would be the starting point? What would be sort of step one in the process? I know you got some diagrams, and maybe you can share those with us as well as we go.
Yeah. So
and maybe as a lead into that, maybe by context of talking through what we went through as well, because mine pretty much sucked. The website was average, everything was average. And so what did we do first? And what would you recommend people look at first?
Yeah. So what I'd say to that is that you got to drill down on your why. You got to figure out why things matter to you. Why do you want to do the things in a specific way? And maybe have an audit of everything that you're doing for your business, and then literally ask the question, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And if you don't have a good answer, maybe there's just some things that you need to, stop doing, keep doing, start. So I do have a diagram that I want to take people through, which is very basic, and it's not necessarily mine. A lot of people will be very familiar with this. It's Simon Sinek's Golden Circle. The way I would talk about
do you want to explain that for the context of anyone who hasn't read the book? I know most people would know who Simon Sinek is, and they may have seen the video that this refers to.
Yeah. Well, it's a premise that out of the why of everything, or you have to go back to start with why. Why am I going to do this? Then figure out how am I going to do this, and then at the outside layer is that what am I going to do? Mm-hmm. Most businesses, when it comes to branding and or marketing, start at the what. What am I going to do now? Mm-hmm. What are the what are the growth hacks? What are the strategies? Everyone comes to me with that. And what they're trying to do is, it's a symptom. And what I'm trying to diagnose here is that there's maybe a bigger issue that we need to deal with. And that's why we're going to drill down to diagnose what the real issue is. And in this context, the why would be your brand strategy. Getting all these Instagram things.
Good branding, you see, your Instagram's gone off the charts.
Yeah, right. Your how would be your content strategy. And your what is your marketing plan. Which a lot of people start at the, let's build a marketing plan. And I'm going, okay, cool, but what's your content strategy? I was like, whoa, what do you mean? Okay, what's your brand strategy? And they're like, oh, I actually don't have one. And I'm like, well, that's a great place to start. And what, just to keep it big picture first, and then we can dive deep, is why is your philosophy, your how is your strategy, and your what is your tactics. Which a lot of people are actually talking to me when they come to us. It's like they want tactics, they want hacks, they want, how do I get more followers? And I go, yeah, but why do you need more followers? Oh, because I'm like, well, if it's not attached to a core business goal, then maybe you need to ask yourself the question, why do you need more leads? Because maybe the solution isn't fixing your content strategy on your website so that the leads that you are getting are converting better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So at a basic premise, this is exactly what we did with you. So on the why front, my business partner drove down, I flew up, and we met in Brisbane in your boardroom, and we did a brand sprint, or a version of a brand sprint, where we actually drilled down on a lot of factors. We talked about your company roadmap, your top 3 values, your top 3 audiences, the brand personality, what it was going to have. We chatted a little bit about the competitive landscape, and then we went away, we drilled you a little bit. We actually got a bit of market research from strangers.
That was horrible. Just let me explain what happened there. So basically, Jose and James, his business associate, went and took my existing branding and took it to strangers and asked them what they thought of my brand, and then they made me listen to the results, and it was not pretty. So it was.
Well, I'm sorry for that. However,
hey, look, it was good, because I think there's a good lesson in this for every business owner. Actually, is that clarity is the first part.
Yeah.
Like, you got to know where you're starting before you know where you're going, right?
Yeah. I think that to our defense, we did the workshop first, and then we gave you the feedback so that you knew that all along it was inside of you. So all we did was draw it out of you. And then we said, okay, your current state, this is how people are looking at you, but we already have a plan forward. And that's why it just married really well. And then we were able to go from there.
Yeah.
So that's step number 1, figure out your why. Step number 2 is on the how. We chatted a little bit about, I don't know if anyone in the audience is familiar with building a story brand.
This is the book by Donald Miller.
Yep. It's a book by Donald Miller that the basic premise of this, if I'm going to synthesize into like a one-liner, is that most people want to be the hero of the story all the time. The problem is our audience members want to be the hero of their own story. So our job as brands and or businesses is to be a mentor. So be the Yoda, don't be the Luke Skywalker. And what this means is that, like, we don't come into an interaction or a transaction with what's in it for me. How can I convert you? How can I win you? It's like, how can I add the most value to you and what you're doing? And by default, we get invited into that story that people are writing about themselves. So I could spin this in very different angles, but we did that to you. we came alongside and we were like, okay, we're the mentors. We're going to guide you. You have it in you. You are the hero of your own story. Let's do this. And then now you are doing that to your audience where you're saying, I, Kirby, am the mentor to all the coaches that want to do X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
Let me give you a plan. Let me take you on that journey. And that paradigm shift, it might seem so small, but it actually has a huge difference in the how of everything that you do with your content. I like to ask people, when was the last time you shared a piece of content where the goal wasn't to get someone to the top of your funnel?
Yes. And I resonate big time with that about adding value to the market.
Yeah.
Because too often, I think 9 times out of 10, you look at posts on social media or you look at live streams like this one, and they're kind of like product.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually a good exercise to go and do, by the way, if you're listening to this or watching this. Go and look at your social media for the last like 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, and see how much of it was adding value and how much of it was selling.
Yeah. And a quick practical way to do this. I don't know who's familiar with Gary Vaynerchuk. He wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And the basic premise is that you can establish a ratio for your business or your brand or your accounts where it's give, then ask. Give, then ask. Whatever that ratio may need to look like, whether it's a monthly thing, a quarterly thing, however your business operates, just make sure you have a ratio where you are actually giving without any ask. And that is what's going to build your brand equity. It goes back to building a brand as a process. This is part of the process. Just giving value to your, like, why should anyone follow you if all you're going to do is sell?
Such a powerful question. Actually, it's not even a question. It's a statement and a question at the same time. And you know, I mean, I know, Jose, you know that I'm banging the drum hard on this at the moment around, you know, adding value to your market with stuff that they want and making sure that you're not trying to manufacture desire, because the desire already exists in the marketplace for whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
You've got to learn how to message it in a way that shifts the focus of that desire from where it currently is to where you want it to be, which is on your brand, right?
Yeah.
Because, and I think a lot of people struggle with that mentality because they think they should just be out there selling all the time, or more so. And this is what I love about Gary Vee. Gary Vee just gives and gives and gives.
Yeah.
Trusting that it's going to come back. And I think, especially when you're new in your business journey, you kind of get caught up on this thing. If I give my information away, they won't need me.
Yeah.
And it's the wrong philosophy. The philosophy should be, I'm going to go and give it away so they realize they need me.
That's right. And that's what we do. And that's why, like, I don't personally get hung up on IP or anything. Like, this is literally like what we're sharing right now is the process that we use to run our agency with our clients. We will literally go through this. So it's on the execution. We could give you all of this, and if you do nothing with it, it's no good. So if you grab this and go and crush it, well, then good on you.
Yeah. and if you can, bloody good job on you, because I couldn't. I needed someone to help me string it together, which the boys did really well with their help. We're able to bring it together in a few late night conversations. Let's talk about the difference, and I want to really drill on this, the difference between tactics and strategy, because so many people confuse the two, and they think they're being strategic when actually they're being very short-term tactical. How do you distinguish that in your world?
Yeah, so that will jump to number 3 when we're talking about tactics. Tactics have usually an expiry date. Are things that are tapping into a trend, tapping into an algorithm change. What's the latest? It's like discovering that thing that's current, that's working before all the marketers jump on board and ruin it, basically. It's about following where the attention is and devising a micro campaign or content for that attention.
Yeah.
And then what's going to happen is everyone's going to catch onto it, like growth hacking, or whatever it is. Everyone's going to find out, even if they're late, and jump on it. So that is something about like staying current and modern, if you'd like, in the trends that's happening. That's what tactics are for. But a strategy is an underlying structure and framework to what you're doing, that the tactics will change, but your strategy needs to be the same.
Yeah.
And the same way I would say your goals should be not moving, but your method should. Your method on how you get to that goal, you need to pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot. If you've tried something and it didn't work and it's the right goal still, then just try a different way to get there. But don't say, oh, it was the wrong goal. Maybe it was in the execution. Maybe it was in the tactic that you put all your eggs in one basket. And if people said, Instagram story ads are right now underpriced, so if you put all of your marketing budget into that and the ad wasn't good, well, there is a half and half. It was execution, and maybe you were not bidding correctly, whatever it could have been. But that's what tactics, a lot of people get hung on the, like, if I could just hit this specific KPI with tactics, my business is going to be okay. And I say to them, no, because you are just treating the symptom, and you're going to create this tactic rush that will generate leads, and then you're going to service them. But while you're serving all these clients, you're not building anything on top. So then once they're gone, you have this need to like push again, instead of having a consistent bottom line of a good solid strategy that is trickling in leads. And that's how you actually scale healthy, rather than being quick, all systems go, marketing, spend a lot of money, boom, get leads. And then you get overwhelmed, finish those leads. Oh, quick. And it's just like this.
It's like the feast and famine thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
It's,
what do you think, like, just to give a couple of analogies from my perspective, the way I look at tactics and strategy is like, if you went into battle, the general who's looking after the army, they're not saying like there's a strategy, but then the tactics is where they're going to run on the field and how they're going to do that stuff. Or even in a sports team, like there's a strategy behind someone running down the left wing on a soccer pitch.
Yeah.
And then there's a tactic of how they do that as well. And the other thing I want to say as well is around, and I love the point that you made around everyone goes and kind of rushes in like, let's get leads. But here's the problem. If the rest of your process sucks, then you're wasting your time, because all it's going to do is dilute your brand, but also it's going to impact and damage your brand when you can't deliver and you can't keep up with that expectation that you've set for the client by being in the market like super fast.
Yeah.
Something I've learned the hard way along my journey, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, in a practical way that I see it happen often is people go, I need more traffic to my website. And I say, well, it's like pouring water into a bucket that has a lot of holes. Mm-hmm. And what I'm offering you is a new bucket. Or let's fix the holes in your bucket. And they are like caught on this, like, no, we just need more water, open the tap wider. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, maybe you had one shot at one client and you send them to the wrong bucket. And if you had waited, maybe they would have converted, and then that lead could have opened a door to 20 more leads. It's just, you're just.
So let's get tactical for a moment here.
Yeah.
What would be sort of 3 things that someone could go and look at right now, where they could look at and say, right, is this right? Is this right? Is this right? Where should they start this journey if they're looking to improve their branding?
Well, I think we've mentioned a couple of books, and I would say building a story brand. If you say I don't have time to go and read it, which a lot of people say, well, then we will not get into a conversation about time management and how bad you want it. But what I'll say is, like, building a story brand has a podcast, and they have one episode where they actually dissect the whole premise in 40 minutes. So if I say I don't have 4 hours to listen to the whole book, go and listen to those 40 minutes, that one episode. And I promise you're going to want to hear the book. And then once you hear the book, you're probably going to want to buy the physical copy, because it's that good. The second book that I would recommend would be Jab, 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 Right Hook by Gary Vee. And then his latest book is called Crushing It, which established a premise about building brand and personal brand. That he set a thesis for it in 2009 with Crush It. And now this is like the results of people that went through that journey, plus what's next. But if it's like, for my brand, what do I need to do? I would, what you mentioned, audit my content and see how much am I selling versus adding value.
Yep.
And another thing is, like, create content with an audience in mind. And
I would say with a person in mind, to be honest.
Yes. Well, That's right. Yeah. Because a lot of people, create content first and then go, let me find an audience for my brilliant piece of content. And you can tell when people design stuff and create stuff and then go, oh, this is for the millennials. This is for and it's just like, oh, people don't like to be marketed that way. I think you need to drill it down to a person or like yourself. Be like, what things I struggle with as a business owner, as a coach, as a mentor, and then say, okay, where are the resources available for that? And maybe there isn't, maybe there is. Maybe you need to go tactical and go to BuzzSumo and then look at what links get the most shares on a specific topic and then rebuild that list the way you would write it. And then it's pre-qualified that people are looking for that content. And then in terms of creating content, I have a little formula that I'll share on how to create good social media all the time.
Hang on, you haven't shared this with me yet. Is this part of the next retainer?
No, I think I mentioned it to you, but it's more of actually, I think this is liberating. And I hope that by sharing this thing, it's people don't feel the weight of I'm failing because X, Y, or Z. People just go, okay, I'm just focusing on the wrong thing, or I'm just naturally not good at this one thing. So maybe I need to bring people. So the model that I have, that I got here, my formula, I call it the GSM equals C cubed, which is good social media equals CCC, which is your copy, it's your words, your context, which is your placement, your channels, your ecosystem online, everything, and then your content.
Yeah.
That should say creative. I'm sorry.
It's all right. You see, we're not perfect. On the fly. Look at this. This is the beauty of going live, right?
Yeah. Your creative is your picture, because this is content. Your creative is your pictures and your videos. And what I want to say to this is most people are good at one thing. Some people are good at two, but no one's good at the three. Unless you are a unicorn and you have billions of followers.
Or a team of 65 people behind you doing the work.
Well, that's right. And they do exist. I've met people that they're just like wired in a way that I envy because I love this stuff. But I'm personally, I lean towards context. I'm good at give me something, give me a picture and give me copy, and I will make it fly. I will get you your Google or your Facebook ads happening and bringing in what they need to do. Mm-hmm. My wing, if you'd like, if you're going to use an Enneagram reference, is my wing is creative. So I also like to design stuff and I, play around with Photoshop and then whatever. But my strength is not copy, as you can see it by me making a mistake on a word. Partly, and this is not an excuse, but partly is because English is my second language, as you might have picked up on my accent. That's why I tend to hesitate or double, triple check things 4 times, because I just don't back myself with copy. And by the way, copy for selling and copy for building brand is different to just copy for artistic purposes. Mm-hmm. So I have worked with poets and I have worked with people that I'm a writer, and I go, yes, but that copy doesn't translate to online.
Yeah.
So people need to understand the power of words and persuasion and what to get and share, and just looks at statistics about what words do to people. Context is just easy to research. Well, there's an insane amount of resources available online, and people are just not looking to improve their way they're contextualizing their content. They would rather point the finger at the algorithm and blame it rather than understanding it and crushing it. I'm like, the market's not going to change. Mm-hmm. Facebook's not going to go, oh, I'm sorry, the algorithm is affecting you. Let me turn it back on and show your content to everyone else, because it's just never going to happen. So we can, I say, we cannot control the waves, but we can learn to surf.
Yeah, I like that.
So we can choose.
The other thing with this, well, Jose, sorry to interrupt you there.
No, you
Facebook's a business, and I think people forget this.
Yeah.
Like Facebook is a publicly listed company, and they have to deliver profit for shareholders. And so they're going to continue to make things harder and harder for the people who don't want to play the game at the level they need to.
Yeah.
So you've got to keep leveling up. If you're not leveling up your game, find someone who can level up for you and listen to the advice. I mean, you know, you look at what people are doing. If they're falling off, if your advert costs are going up, or if you're falling off people's newsfeed, it's because you're not relevant.
Yeah.
That's ultimately what it is.
Yeah. And it goes back to the tactics. Maybe someone taught you a tactic that no longer works because marketers ruin everything and they've abused it. And now Facebook's like, oh, that used to work. Let's penalize it because everyone's doing it at mass and it's spammy. Like this morning, I read an article about Instagram deleting all ghost followers, and they're going to start penalizing the accounts that used paid likes and auto liking and auto following, and which I'm so pumped about because people go, oh, it's easy. I'll just pay for a bot to do all the liking and the engagement for me, and then go, but I'm so authentic. And I'm like, no, you're not. If everything that you do behind the scenes is fake, people will know, people will see. Like if you have a Charlie 1234567.5, like, you know, that's not a real account. And that's the person that's always commenting on your stuff saying, great pic, great feed. It's
with
just
a
like,
thumbs up.
It's not real. And you might feel really good that you're getting all those comments, but don't expect those comments from a fake bot to translate into real business.
So here's a question for you whilst we're on the topic, authenticity.
Yeah.
I know this is one of the things that we talked about in my brand sprint is like, what is authentic? Because it's, you know, it's a buzzword right now. Like everyone's like, oh, look at me. And the thing that I laugh so hard when I see this on Facebook. Yeah. People say, I'm about to share something that is raw and real. It's like, if it was raw and real, you wouldn't need to tell people that it was raw and real because they'd work that out for themselves.
Yeah.
And no one, you know, like no one gives a shit. Like unless just don't. And it's all about, look at me, I'm crying. Who cares? Yeah.
Well, when people say, this is just me. When people say, if I'm honest, and they say that, I just assume that the rest of the time they were not honest. So when people say, can I be raw and authentic now? I go, oh, the whole rest of the time was a PR version of yourself that was not you.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and that's the easiest way to build a brand, to be from that angle, to be authentic. Is just like, it's like not having to remember a lie. If you always tell the truth, then you don't have to remember what you might have told one person and you might have told another person. It's just like, always say the truth, always be true to who you are. Now, before we start recording, we were having a quick conversation about how I heard an argument against being authentic. And it was from Seth Godin, and it was from this angle. He was saying that being authentic has been hyped so much to the point where people use it as an excuse. People use it as an excuse to not do things because it doesn't feel right, or it doesn't. And he goes, I don't need a surgeon that's authentic, that mid-surgery, he's going to go, oh, I don't feel like finishing this surgery, and leaving the patient open. He goes, I need someone that's going to be professional. So what I'd say to this is, when it comes to defining your brand in the why, be authentic, because it's what's going to get you out of bed and get you excited. If the ROI of this whole thing is happiness, then what is going to keep you going? Once you drill down on your why, then your how and your what, you have to be professional. You have to get up and execute. You have to deliver on the promises. Like you can't just, make it all about the fluff because it's authentic. I'm like, you actually got to deliver results. If you send someone a proposal, you have to deliver on the things that were on the proposal. If you're expecting that what they pay is the same thing. I'm like, you can't have, I always like to say that, like, we have so much grace for ourselves because we have context for who we are, and we go, oh, but they don't know my situation. They don't know my circumstances. But then when it comes to extending that same grace we would expect people to give us without any context, we don't. And the truth is, we don't have the context on third parties either. So I just like to say, yes, be authentic, but also be professional and get the things that you need to get done.
Yeah, I like it. Couple of things before we wrap it up.
Yeah.
First of all, where can people come and say hello to you? So if someone's watching this and they go, Jose seems like a good bloke, where can I go and find out more about him?
Yeah, so we're at Waywood Co. It's WAYWOOD CO. And part of the reason why we chose that name, other than that we like the vibe, is that we wanted to prove to people through our process that you can grab a word that means nothing and create something out of nothing. And then our own brand is an exercise of branding from nothing. And then you can find me at Jose Huergo everywhere. I have a rare name, so I don't struggle for handles.
You're like, at the Jose, at the real Jose. Yeah.
No,
There's like a gazillion Anthony Kirbys. It's a real piss.
Yeah.
And you know what? There's actually, which is quite hilarious. There's an Anthony Kirby who was a serial killer. You type in Anthony Kirby into Google and it's like serial killer. So I promise you, I'm not a serial killer. My father was a cop. It was not me.
I hope not.
Second thing, before we go, last question for you. Yeah. Sorry, were you going to say something there? Were you going to add something?
Oh, I was just going to say good day. If you have any questions about something that we might have rushed, and I'm happy to explain. I mean, I already said that I don't care about giving all my IP away. So if all you want is for like content advice, links, whatever, I'll send them.
Yeah, love it. And finally for you, very important question, given that we are now recording the Difference Maker show.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be a difference maker for you? And what is the core value that you think a difference maker has?
Oh, I wish you would have.
There's always got to be one curly question.
Yeah. A difference maker. Well, I have this analogy that I use about, there's this specific whale that emits a certain frequency.
Right.
And then other whales that are the same type of specific whale tend to gravitate towards that because they hear that call. And I, for the longest time, was not trying to be who I was, sort of thing. I was trying to be like, what is going to get me into whatever circles or do whatever. And now I feel like since I started my own business and kind of taking responsibility of my own life and everything, it's just like, okay, I'm going to emit my frequency, my vibe. And then people like Anthony Kirby will gravitate towards me. And then people that are awesome, that add value, and then now I'm in a place where I'm like, oh, I can be. So maybe it is like difference maker internally, like making like a difference for yourself first. I mean, someone very wise I was having a session with recently told me, you got to put on your oxygen mask first before you can help others. So maybe.
Wonder who that was.
Yeah. So maybe like, it's about making a difference in yourself and how you see the world, and investing in yourself to look at the world different. And then if there's things that, like most people say, the best way to find purpose is like, what makes you angry? So I'm like, what are you? So I'm like, okay, whatever you are the most passionate about, just keep emitting that frequency, and then you'll find people that gravitate towards you.
I love it. And you know what? That's the scariest place to be. I feel like I'm right there at this moment. With all of our rebrand, but it's a good place to be because it feels so true to who you really want to be in the world. And I think for me, and in signing off, I would say that for me, a difference maker is all about leaving people better than you find them. And I trust that if you've watched this live on Facebook right now, or if you're listening to this recording on iTunes or wherever else, I trust that has been the case for you in our discussion today. If you want more like this, let me know. Make sure you hit share if you're watching this on Facebook. It'd be great to get the message out to more brands. And also, if you're listening to this as a recording, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Jose, thanks, mate. Awesome to have you on the show. We should do it again sometime and dive a bit deeper on some of these content.
Yeah. Keen.
In fact, what would be really cool would be to come back in like 6 months and see the impact that the rebrand has had on my business as a case study, so we can show people what it means to have a brand.
Yeah.
So,
because I know that it could be better.
Yeah, it's good. I love it. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching on Facebook. I'll see you later on the recording. We'll see you in the next episode.
Hey, cheers.